So in this case, they ask you to solve for x and y simultaneously. And this is for 7 marks. Now, the first thing you realize is that in the second equation, x and y have powers. So we can't use the elimination method. We are bound to use the substitution method. So we go to the simplest equation, which is the first one. And we try to express one variable in terms of the other. So here we see that it's easier to express x in terms of y as opposed to expressing y in terms of x. Because if we try to make y the subject of the formula, we end up having fractions. And trust me, you don't want to work with fractions. So we tell them we focus on the first equation from which we generate the third equation. What is the third equation? It's x in terms of y. So we take 3y to the right, it becomes positive. We take 4 to the right, it becomes negative. And this is our third equation. Then we substitute the third equation into the second equation. In other words, in the second equation, where you see x, you put 3y minus 4. So we have 3, and then we say plus 3y minus 4 times y, and this y you can choose to put it here. But for now, let's say it's here. Then you say minus 3y minus 4, which is squared, and the whole thing equals y squared. Fine. Then we distribute the y here. So we have 3 plus 3y times y. We get 3y squared. And you say negative 4 times y. You get negative 4y. In order to be safe, let's use the FOIL method here. So we repeat this bracket twice. But I want us to open a big bracket because there is a negative in front. So we say we have 3y minus 4 into 3y minus 4. And this is equal to y squared. So here we still have 3 plus 3y squared minus 4y. Then you say minus 3y times 3y, you get 9y squared. And then 3y times negative 4, you get negative 12y. Negative 4 times 3y, it's still negative 12y. And then you say negative 4 times negative 4, you get a positive 16. And everything equals y squared. Fine. Then it's time to distribute, or before that, let's collect the like terms inside this bracket. So we have 3 plus 3y squared minus 4y. And then we say minus, well, the 9y squared goes alone. Negative 12y minus 12y, it's negative 24y. Then you say plus 16. And the whole thing equals y squared. Then it's time to distribute. And let's take the y squared to the left. So it becomes negative. So we have 3y squared minus y squared minus 4y. Negative times positive 9y squared. It's negative 9y squared. Negative times negative 24y. It's positive 24y. Then negative times positive 16. It's negative 16. and everything equals 0 because we took this y squared to the left. Then we collect the like terms. 3y squared minus y squared, it's 2y squared. Then 2y squared minus 9y squared, it's negative 7y squared. Fine. Then we come to the y's. We say negative 4y plus 24y. It's going to be positive 20y. And then we say 3 minus 16. It's going to be negative 13. And this is equal to 0. Then we can see we end up having an advanced quadratic equation because we can't divide by 7. We are going to end up having fractions. But we can divide everything by negative 1 so that we end up having 7y squared minus 20y, and then you say plus 13, and this is equal to 0. Then at this point, we have two choices. We can either use the quadratic formula in order to solve for y, or we can factorize this advanced quadratic formula, in fact, equation, using the table method. I think we can do both of them. You'll decide which one works best for you. But let's start by using the quadratic formula. So we know that x equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac. And the whole thing is divided by 2a. Right. Then we say our b is negative 20 plus or minus. So we take negative 20 and square it, minus 4. The value of a is 7, and the value of c is 13. And the whole thing is divided by what? By 2 into a, which is 7 like that. So if you say negative times negative 20, you get a positive 20 here. And let's see how much we get for whatever that is inside the square root. So we say negative 20 squared minus 4 into 7 times 13. Then we get the square root of 36. And the whole thing is divided by 14. This is what we have. Then if we say the square root of 36, it's going to be 6. So we have 20 plus or minus 6, which is divided by 14. Then it's time for us to separate our solutions. So we say x equals 20 plus 6 divided by 14, or maybe this one I can write it here, or x equals 20 minus 6 divided by 14. So if you go to your calculator and say 20 plus 6 divided by 14, you get 13 over 7. And if you say 20 minus 6 divided by 14, you get 1. So these are our two solutions. But can you see the quadratic formula is expressed in terms of x? But we understand that in this equation, we are not really solving for x. We are actually solving for y. So we could have expressed our equation in terms of y. So we now know that y equals this much, y equals this. This is the first solution for y. And then the second solution for y is this. And our quadratic formula must be expressed in terms of y so that there's consistency there. So these are the two values of y which we found. But if we wanted to factorize by using a table, this is what we could have said. We say, okay, this is how it looks like. And this is how it looks like. Then you say, what are factors of the first term, 7y squared? Unfortunately, we can only write it as 7y times y. The same holds for 13. We can only write it as 13 times 1. Now we are looking for a combination of multiplications here, such that if we add it, we get 20. So if you say 7y times 13, it's going to be a very big number, such that if you say that number minus or plus y, it can give you 20y. But if you say 7y times 1, you get 7y. And then you say y times 13, you get 13y. So 7y plus 13y, they'll give you 20y. Do you see that? But in order for you to write it nicely, you have to say, okay, if I take 7y and multiply it by 1, I'm going to get 7y. This is important for generating factors, writing it like this. And then you say y times by 13, it's going to give you 13y. Now, what must be the signs of both of these so that they add up to negative 20? Well, both of them have to be negative. Do you see that? Yes, they have to be negative. So then how do we write our factors? Well, you open your two brackets. You say everything equals 0. This is your first factor. So you have 7y and 13. Your second factor is y and 1. And we said both of these factors are negative. This is where we get the signs of the factors. So once again, if we solve for y in both of these, we still get 1 and 13 over 7. So now that we know the values of y, next we have to go and find the values of x. So meaning we go to the third equation and substitute these values of y in order to get the values of x. Oh, I have erased the third equation, but the third equation was x equals 3y minus 4. So we tell them that we substitute y equals 13 over 7 and y equals 1 into equation 3. We have to tell them everything we do. So then it means your x will be 3 into 13 over 7 minus 4, which if we substitute into our calculator, will just give us 11 over 7. And then the second x value will be 3 into 1 minus 4. So 3 times 1 is 3. minus 4, it's just going to be -1. So these are the corresponding x values when the y values are those much. Yes, I was hoping we can do the second one, but I see this video is going to be very, very long. So I think it's best if we cut it here. We'll do another one in a second, separate video. Thank you so much for watching.